Welcome back to the channel, family. Rafael back here with another one. You guys know how I do it. So I want to talk about this push for these shots. They're really pushing hard for these shots and what's coming for us with these shots. Now, here we have a Texas school that is still pushing for their students to still get mandated shots. Why? Because they want to pump up these kids with these chemicals so that they can continue to get sick. And then people are wondering why they're getting sick and not putting two and two together. When the only thing that's changed is those chemicals that we put in. And along with the GMO foods that we're eating and that we're giving the kids. But let's listen into what's going to happen with these kids.
Many kids will soon be returning to school virtually. That does not mean they can skip their vaccinations.
Absolutely. The state's still mandating vaccines for all students, whether they're in school or out. Courtney Freeman explained.
That's crazy, whether they're in school or out of school. So if you have your kid at home who's taking their courses virtually, not around anybody, quote unquote social distancing, they still have to get their shots. That is insane.
Explains why it's still crucial to vaccinate and where parents can go to get them for free.
Across the country, the CDC reported regular
And of course, now they want them all for free. Because now it's just a push that we got to get these vaccines out. So we got to keep mixing all these vaccines that we keep giving these kids. In the 80s, it was 30-something vaccines. Now we're up to 80-something. Along with the new one that's coming up with the CV vaccine. So what is this cocktail that we're getting? It's just a cocktail of what? Disease. Toxins. Poison.
Vaccinations plummeted when the pandemic hit, including here in Texas, a terrifying trend for health leaders.
You don't want to have a pandemic and then have some epidemics alongside it.
Thankfully, Metro Health Immunization Clinic supervisor Martha Groomer hasn't seen any reports of diseases like the measles or mumps, but says if kids don't get vaccinated, that could easily change.
We do know that all it takes is for one person to be infected and it spreads.
Plus, if your child is going back to school,
and that's bull, because I've even proved on this channel, you go back to my videos where they did a study of 500 people where they kept exposing them to an infected CV-19 patient and they could not get infected. That proves that germ theory is BS.
it's mandatory. The Texas Department of State Health Services has decided school vaccination rules are in effect for the 2020-2021 school year, regardless of whether that education is received virtually or in person. And that goes for college students, too.
They have to register to be in that.
And that's all they want to do is keep pushing the vaccine. No, we cannot keep pumping our children with these toxins. Literally, these kids, there's a rise in autism, there's a rise in autoimmune disease, and nobody's literally pointing to the finger at what's changed in the life. If nothing else has changed but the GMO foods and the vaccines, what can we point the finger to? What do we have to look at closely at what's damaging our children? It's just common sense. And they're going to keep pushing this vaccine hard. They're going to keep going because now, in order to defeat this quote unquote disease that we still haven't isolated yet, that we still haven't purified yet, that the PCR test does not diagnose nor confirm that you have the virus. And we were told by Kerry Mullis himself, when he said the PCR test is not to be used to diagnose. But nobody's paying attention. Nobody's listening. Nobody seems to care. Just like what Carlin said. Let's keep going. Make vaccines free. Don't allow religious or personal objections and punish those who won't be vaccinated. They are threatening the lives of others. How? How? If you're vaccinated, that means you're protected. How can I give you something that you're protected against? Again, that shows that you don't even have confidence in the very vaccine that you're taking. And these are opinions by doctors, medical doctors. Their opinions get to go up. To win the war, we are at war against the boogeyman, basically, because we don't see anybody. Everything is just false numbers that are coming up. But to win the war against the novel coronavirus that has now killed over 158,000 people without proof, because again, the test does not prove that you have the virus. 158,000 people in this country, the only answer is compulsory vaccination for all of us. They will not stop until we all get vaccinated. They will not stop until we all have this shot. They are pushing hardcore for us to get this shot, and they will not stop until everybody gets this shot. And now they're trying to put it as it is not patriotic if you get it. You're unpatriotic if you don't get the shot. So you're not an American if you don't get the shot. You don't care about your neighbor if you don't get the shot. But wait, I actually care about them, that I'm actually trying to educate them about this. But no, since what people like me say, and to the people who listen to the channel, they don't listen to us. Why? Because we don't have that certificate, that paper, and that lab coat. But just use common sense, and that works. So remember, guys, you're unpatriotic if you do not take this vaccine. But how patriotic can you be for a government that doesn't care for you, who has systematically set us up in this position to where we are today, where millions are out of work, people are starving, yet the big companies are still hiring people, but the mom and pop shops can't open up. It's going to be a time where it's going to be like the Gestapo. We're going to need our paperwork if we don't have this vaccine in order to move places. It's only going to get worse, and they're going to keep pushing for the vaccine. Now, we have another threat, another fear-mongering technique for them. The CDC expects 2020 outbreak of life-threatening AFM in children. Now that we're going, quote-unquote, back to school and opening up and all these things, now we have the scare of this with children going back to school. What is AFM? Acute flaccid myelitis is a rare, debilitating disease with symptoms that mimic polio. But wasn't there a polio shot? So shouldn't you have some kind of antibodies for that to combat that? But I digress. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a call to action to warn of a potential outbreak between the end of this summer and winter of a rare but potentially lethal disease that affects young children, where seeking medical attention right away could make all the difference. Now, AFM is a rare rapid onset neurological disease affecting the spinal cord, leading to paralysis. Symptoms of AFM include sudden arm or leg weakness, difficulty walking, limb pain, back pain, or neck pain. AFM can cause Wow, I can't even talk right now. Paralysis over the course of hours to days, which may require a ventilator for breathing. They just want to get you on this ventilator. Now they want to get the kids. First, they got the old people on the ventilators when this virus broke out, and they were killing masses of them, especially Cuomo, when he was begging for ventilators to get everybody on them and just murdering people. But I want you guys to see the side effects of this. So, recent or current respiratory illness, right? Fever, pain or numbness in the limbs, gait difficulty, headache, back or neck pain, difficulty walking, talking or swallowing, neck or facial weakness. Now, kids have been locked up, really have no place to exercise, parks are closed down, constant sanitizing, washing your hands, cleaning things with disinfectants. You don't think you're gonna get sick, maybe break a fever because the body's trying to fight off how clean you are, quote unquote, because you have no natural bacteria on you to fight off the viruses, the natural viruses that we fight off naturally on a day-to-day basis. Kids aren't being active, so of course they have numbness in the limbs. They're not running around. They're not strengthening their legs. Kids are on their tablets, TVs all day. Maybe reading a book all day. Of course they're gonna get a headache. There's nothing stimulating them. Parents are at work. Well, those who can work are at work. Most parents aren't really invested in teaching, which this is the perfect time to teach and instill a lot of values in your children now that you have one-on-one time. And it sucks that this has to be the cause of that one-on-one time, that you actually have time for your children, but make the best out of that and make them a better you. Of course you have back pain or neck pain because you're looking again at a tablet, bending your neck all day, watching TV all day, not really exercising, moving around. Difficulty talking or swallowing with all these disinfectants and sprays and Clorox and sanitize and all these things, of course. And maybe a mask that you're wearing all day. Neck or facial weakness. Well, you got the mask on all day. All that heating up your face and getting it all wet, making it susceptible to other diseases. We have to be cognitive of this, people. This is more fear mongering that they're setting up and predictive programming for their setup for more vaccines to come. Because why? They want to pump our children up with vaccines. They want to keep the program going. They will not stop until everybody is fully vaccinated and pumped up with their toxins. We are their guinea pigs. Now, look at Kill Bates as he tries to justify a report that came out where people were getting sick off their clinical trials because they're headed for their warp speed vaccine. Let's listen in to this guy here.
Well, I want to ask you, you mentioned side effects. The side effects for the Moderna vaccine sound concerning. We looked. After the second dose, at least 80% of participants experienced a systemic side effect, ranging from severe chills to fevers.
And I believe those are side effects of the quote-unquote CV-19. But the vaccines are supposed to work, aren't they?
Are these vaccines safe?
Well, the FDA, not being pressured, will look hard at that. The FDA is the gold standard of regulators, and their current guidance on this.
I just want to know who let this guy be one of the leading medical people in this. This guy is a quote-unquote tech guy, but now he's a medical god. What money can do when you largely invest your money into other companies, then you become a sayer for those companies, and you become a director of those companies, and you say what happens, and you add your influence, and your influence become heavy until the point that those influences are now your demands and your controls.
If they stick with that, is very, very appropriate. And The side effects were not super severe. That is, it didn't cause permanent health problems for the things there. Moderna did have to go with a fairly high dose, and so to get the antibodies. Some of the other vaccines are able to go with lower doses to get responses that are pretty high, including the J&J and the Pfizer. And so there's a lot of characteristics of these vaccines. It's great that we have multiple of them that are
Bill,
going out there. And yes, I think
you know the data
US
better than I do.
government-
But the data showed that everybody with a high dose had a side effect.
Yeah, but some of that is not dramatic, where it's just super painful. But yes, we need to make sure there's not severe side effects. The FDA.
She just told you there was systematic responses of fevers and chills, and now he's just saying no, it was nothing, just a little bit of pain, just a little shot, just a needle pain. No, that's not what the report showed, and he's trying to justify it by saying it was just a little pain, when no, all these companies have all these different quote unquote vaccines coming out, plus the federal just backed them by saying that any of the CV vaccines that could potentially harm somebody, and if they do harm anybody, they are not liable for it. They are granted immunity. So what does that tell you? If all these vaccines are granted immunity and they quote unquote work, why are they granted immunity from the people who supply them? That doesn't make sense.
I think we'll do a good job of that, despite the pressure.
How many doses of the vaccine will we need?
Well, none of the vaccines at this point appear like they'll work with a single dose. That was
And that's what they want. They want to keep pumping you. They're going to say the first one doesn't work because we keep having cases. Then they're going to hit you with a second one. Then they're going to say the second one isn't working too well. And remember, 150 companies are pumping out this vaccine. So they're going to say, oh, maybe the 112th might work. That's 112 different CV-19 vaccines that you have taken now to try to make it work. You think your body's going to be able to sustain that?
The hope at the very beginning, maybe one of them, particularly in the second generation, won't surprise us. We hope just two, although in the elderly, sometimes it takes more. And so making sure we have lots of elderly people in the trial will give us that data.
You've said some more than 7 billion doses. That's what we'll need.
Well, if what you're
they want everybody on the planet to have these doses, multiple of them. This concoction of chemicals they want in our body. Now let's look at what's going on in Europe. This is Boris Johnson, and he's just hating on anti-vaxxers because, of course, he has an agenda to push because he's backed by these sodomites who want to control everybody and keep their foot on our necks.
MMR and the BCG and all that jazz. Because there's all these anti-vaxxers now, isn't there?
Well, Marina can tell you a little bit about how we've achieved
everybody to get a flu jab in the run-up to this winter, and that's why we're rolling out the biggest ever program of flu immunisation, flu inoculation, and we're aiming first of all for school children, for up to year 7, for pregnant women.
And they want, see, the aim is to children. They want to aim at the children first. They want to get them young so that these toxins can develop in their body as they're growing. And it could be nanotech that they're pumping in so it can literally bind with the body as you grow. People, that's crazy. And the pregnant, they want to get it at the fetus. They want to get all children. That's the goal, to infect all children with whatever they want to put in there. And that is insane. Here in Europe, they're going for the biggest flu vaccine push coming up, this fall winter coming up. They're gonna be giving it out for free, and they say they're gonna be giving out an extra 30 million doses of it.
For people over 65, people being shielded. But
They
then
want to
we'll
get
be-
the
we'll be
old
extending
people
it
as
to,
well.
people from 50 to 65. Now, the reason for doing this is to protect the NHS in the winter months, because obviously we've still got COVID, we've still got the threat of a second spike.
And they want to protect people by giving them toxins, by giving them formaldehyde, by giving them preservatives, adjuvants, monkey tissues, monkey kidneys, fetal tissue, thimerosal, mercury. This is protecting people? I don't think so. We're literally killing people. We do not know these long-term effects. We're now catching up to it. Alzheimer's, autism.
Of COVID, and it's vital, therefore, to keep that pressure off the NHS by everybody getting a flu jab, and I really hope everybody will. My message to people over the next few months is, we've done very well. The virus is under control in this country to a very large extent, but it is still there. And if you look at what's happening in other countries, there is clearly a risk that it could come back again. So we do need to maintain those social distancing measures. We do need to keep washing our hands in shops, on public transport, in places where you're going to be close to people that you don't normally meet. Face coverings are a good idea, and that will remain the case until we've made a lot more progress.
And of course, they want to keep the face coverings going. Of course, they want to keep us masked up when we don't even need it, when we've already proved that it doesn't work. Now, this is what's going to happen if we don't get our shot.
Well, for coronavirus vaccine, some major questions are emerging.
It's going to get deep, and it's going to start affecting a lot of people, especially those of us who are going to be pushing back.
Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. A lot of people are wondering if the government could force people to get it, or could people who refuse get banned from stores or lose their jobs? ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl spoke with a legal expert.
And that's how they're going to make us have this paperwork. We're going to be forced just to go to work. Even if just to bag groceries, you're going to have to get your vaccination and have your paperwork in order to be quote unquote legal now, in order to travel, in order to buy your groceries, in order to get gas, in order to buy a soda at the store, in order to pick up your kids from daycare. It's all going to be required to have your vaccination.
To get some answers.
Imagine a world where you have to get vaccinated and show proof to go shopping, board a plane, or just go to work. Legally, it could happen, says University of San Diego law professor Dov Fox.
States can compel vaccinations in more or less intrusive ways. They can limit access to schools or services or jobs if people won't get vaccinated. It could force them to pay a fine or even lock them up in jail. Those measures have been adopted in other countries like France, but not so far in the United States.
It all dates back to a Supreme Court case in 1905. The court held that Massachusetts could fine people for not getting vaccinated against smallpox. That case became the basis of vaccine requirements at schools across the country.
Courts have found that when medical necessity requires it, the public health outweighs the individual rights and liberties at stake.
Just last year, New York City passed an ordinance fining people for not getting a measles vaccination. But there's a big difference between what states have the power to do and what Congress could do.
There are these questions, separation of powers, Commerce Clause questions.
Professor Fox says a federal vaccine requirement would probably get shot down by the current Supreme Court based on a 2012 ruling on the Affordable Care Act.
And this is where we're going, guys. We're headed to this, where it's going to be law in order to be vaccinated. Now check out what's going out here. And this is happening in China. Now we got this happening here in Brisbane.
Artificial intelligence and facial recognition technology will be used to monitor social distancing measures as the country learns to live with COVID-19. Retailers and other business owners can be alerted of breaches, while homegrown tech is changing the way kids play sport.
In this busy lunchroom, social distancing isn't on the menu. Software goes to work detecting breaches of the 1.5 metre rule before alerting management.
Contact tracing, what we can actually do is we can box off people, so then we can see when they interact with other people.
In use overseas at bars, restaurants, shopping centres and workplaces.
This sort of technology can actually pick up whether customers are wearing face masks.
This is what it's going to be. The surveillance is only getting heavier and heavier, where now they will be knocking on your door with a video saying, well, you didn't social distance here. You didn't stay away here. You weren't wearing your mask there. You didn't do this. You didn't follow this. You weren't standing on the little circle saying 6 feet away from this. And then they will be fining you. This is where we're headed. Now, I know in New York City, they are fining people $10,000, I believe, for not social distancing or not following quarantine mandates. Now, I recently spoke to somebody who, in their job, the health department walked in and there was 2 individuals that did not have their mask on. And the health department gave them a warning and said, next time I come back and I don't see these people with masks on, there will be a $10,000 fine for each person not wearing. So that was 2 people. So that means the company would have to pay $20,000 for not wearing a mask. And that's what they're going to start doing to us. They're going to start hitting us financially for it. First, it was the quarantine. First, they weren't letting us buy. Then they were letting us only shop online. And then they're going to start handing out the fines. This is where it's going to be. The fines for not quarantining for a virus that is not even here. Now, I know this was a bit of a long one. But if you guys like to support the channel, just please like and share, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you guys are notified whenever I post a new video. If you guys are not subscribed to TrueTube.com, I suggest you guys subscribe to TrueTube.com. I am there as well under Rafael Flatplane TV. I post videos here that YouTube likes to take down because we already know that censorship is at an all-time high and even going higher. But I'll leave you guys with this little funny video, and whenever you guys go shopping, hopefully you guys have this so you guys can be safe and follow those CDC guidelines. This is how you sanitize all your groceries that you just bought. They even do it for you. All your vegetables, all your stuff, a bunch of chemicals being sprayed all over it. Isn't that wonderful? They might even steam your veggies for you. My God, this is crazy. This world is getting worse and worse and worse. Well, family, thank you guys for enjoying this one. Thank you guys for being on another one with me. Be safe, and as always, I'm gonna catch you guys on the flip side.